Happy to have everybody here this morning. And aren't you glad it's not a 7:30 meeting? It's 8 o'clock. It's a little more reasonable. Yay. Maybe we could have started even later. I don't know. But let's go ahead and get started. Our first bill today is House Bill 79, voter ID concealed carry permit. And we'll turn it over to Representative Cragel. Welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So bring to you House Bill 79 committee. This is sort of an old friend already. I mean, I think you've already seen this on your side. Senate File 86, they're nearly identical. And so I think we're both just trying to push these through the process. This bill came to me from a constituent back home who happened to be an election judge, and he just pulled me aside. Actually, I think it was the day of election last year and said, hey, why can't we use our concealed carry as a valid voter identification? I said, I don't know. I was here when we passed the voter ID law a couple years ago and said it was probably just an oversight. We didn't think about it, wasn't included on the list, but I know some people and we can work on that. So here we are. And that's really, that's what we're doing, is just trying to add that to the list. I think it's one of the more secure forms of ID. It's a lot more secure than some of the other ones that are already on the list as far as voter integrity. And so I don't have a whole lot more to add. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Questions for Representative?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair.
Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, I'm looking at the engrossed version, and you said nearly identical. Can you just tell us what the difference is, if there is one, between the version that we looked at first and then it's engrossed? So what changed from when it came over? Thank you.
Go ahead, Representative.
Madam Chair, Senator Ellis, it is identical, I believe, to Senate File 86. What changed on both of them was we took out the reference at the request of the Secretary of State. We took out the reference to the statute in Title VI, where the concealed carry permit resides, where the authority to issue that is. I think there was a concern that we may have concealed carries from out of state being used, which was never our intent. We really only wanted it to be used for concealed carry permits issued by the state of Wyoming. So that's what the language was changed to say.
Other questions? I had just one. I guess what is different about the concealed carry permit versus the driver's license, other than, I know there's not a driver's license number on it, but what else might be on there that would still make it a valid type of ID?
Madam Chair, thank you. So
he just showed me.
they're very similar, other than there's some background checks that go into the concealed carry permit. So they actually look into you a little bit more than your driver's license.
Wow. It looks like maybe Senator Baldwin has a better picture on his concealed than his other one. So there's that. So thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? Senator Ellis, no? You're good? Okay. I don't have any other questions. So with that, I think we'll open it up for public testimony. Anyone in the room that would like to testify? Welcome, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Joe Rubino. I'm the Policy Director for the Secretary of State's office. I just wanted to convey the Secretary's support of House Bill 79 as amended, including within the acceptable identification. A Wyoming concealed firearm permit provides a common sense balance, which broadens the forms of acceptable identification to vote without compromising election integrity. It was brought up by the sponsor of the bill, and I'll speak a little bit to the amendment that our office proposed in consultation with the sponsor of the bill, as well as the mirror bill that is now identical as well, as amended. As originally written, House Bill 79 provided that a valid permit to carry a concealed firearm issued pursuant to 68104 will act as acceptable identification. 68104, governing the punishment for carrying a concealed weapon, provides several enumerated exceptions. 68104 subsection A Romanet 2 provides an exception where a person possesses a permit under this section, i.e. one who has undergone the stringent processes for obtaining a concealed firearm permit from the state of Wyoming pursuant to 68104 subsection A. But House Bill 79, with the blanket reference to 68104, provides for both a permit issued from Wyoming under 68104 subsection A Romanet 2, as well as a valid permit which may be issued by another state. And so the concern was, and we, discussed that with the sponsor of the bill in both the House and the Senate for both of those versions with the intent of that. So that's why that was amended. But I think the sponsor of the bill already spoke to that. And so with that, I'll just say that the Secretary does support House Bill 79 as written, as well as its mirror Senate file, which is identical as amended. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for the Secretary of State's office? Anyone?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. Anyone else in the room that would like to testify? Come on up. Welcome.
Good morning, Chairwoman.
Good morning.
My name is Mary Langford, and I have the honor of representing the County Clerks Association of the state. The county clerks support this legislation with its amendment, as well as the mirror bill, Senate File 86. During the past election season, concealed carry permits were presented for voter ID at polling places for the purpose of voting. The application for a concealed carry permit is rigorous, and it's a Wyoming identification card with a photo ID. The County Clerks Association feels that it should be included as an acceptable form of identification for the purpose of voting. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Questions for Ms. Langford? So I just have one. After looking and seeing both of these side by side, it looks to me like it looks just like a driver's license. But does it have all the security features that a driver's license has? Just out of curiosity.
Madam Chairwoman, yes, it does, and in fact, more. It's the background that goes into a concealed carry. There's fingerprints, there's background check. That type of security doesn't support our driver's licenses. They're both recognized by Homeland Security. So,
And just as a follow-up, did you have anyone try to present that this past season when we had the election?
Madam Chairwoman, yes, we did.
You did.
Folks thinking that all Wyoming issued IDs were acceptable. It is a Wyoming issued ID. So,
Any other questions? Okay, Senator Jones.
Madam Chair, are they scannable, the concealed carry permits? Do you know?
Ms. Langford?
Madam Chairwoman, I don't know if they are scannable.
Good question. Something to think about for the future, right? Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, with that, thank you for your testimony. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room that would like to testify on this bill? Okay. Do we have anybody online? No? Okay. This is a tough one for you, Representative. Anything else you'd like to say?
Madam Chair.
Okay.
I think Senator.
Oh, go ahead, Senator. Come on up.
In my seat, but,
Come on up.
just
We'd love to hear from
support
you.
the good Representative, I have the mirror bill on the other side, and I think it's important for us to get together and help one another out, Madam Chair. For me, it was a matter of, I was dropped off to go vote, and I pulled my ID out of my wallet, and I get up through the line, and I told you I just had surgery, and I was told you can't use this. And I'm like, I am not getting back out of this line and coming back into this building to vote today if I have to leave. So I had my husband bring my ID, and all I could think of was, we're gonna fix this. So unbeknownst to me, the good representative had the same idea. So that's why I brought the legislation forward. Also, with the concealed carry, we have to have firearm training. We take our application to our sheriff's office, drop that off with a fee, and they do a complete background check on us. And it's like maybe a month or so, the ID will come to your house, or you go and pick it up. Another thing is my concealed carry ID actually has more information on it about me than my driver's license.
Questions for the senator? What else? I do, just that you brought that up. What else does it have on there? I didn't get a real close look at Senator
Well, you'll
Baldwin, so-
see the firearm is on
Okay.
there.
Yeah, I did see
That's
that.
one thing that's very prominent, a little firearms.
Yeah.
And then it's red, the Wyoming, I think, is red on the
Yeah.
firearm and blue, black or blue on the driver's license.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Ellis.
Madam Chair, I dislike the practice of having mirror bills. Because when I first started in the legislature, it was like just hammered in, don't do it. And so now here we are, we've got two. Do you have a preference on which bill moves forward, or is your preference just to get this done and have a bill go?
Senator Ellis, or I mean, excuse me, Senator Hutchins.
Madam Chair, Senator Ellis, I was really surprised that LSO allowed this. Usually when two people have the exact same bill, they'll notify us. So I was surprised. This was not something that we got together and did and said, hey, you run it here and I run it there. It was as simple as that. In fact, it passed out of the Corporations Committee without me. They just passed it out. But yeah, I agree with you. The mirror bill issue was not something we thought of. It just happened. There's no preference. We're both on the bills. It doesn't matter. It's the law that matters. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Anything else for Senator Hutchins? Appreciate your
All right.
testimony. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to testify on this bill? Okay. And we didn't have anyone online again that's not shown up. Okay, good. Well, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. What's your pleasure?
Move the bill.
Move the bill by Senator Ellis. Second by Senator Baldwin. Any issues with either page? This is a tough one. All right. If there's no questions or other comments, we'll go ahead and take roll. Roll call vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 79, Senator Baldwin.
Aye.
Senator Ellis.
Aye.
Senator Guru has voted no. Senator Jones. And Chairman Schuler.
Aye.
We have 4 ayes and 1 no.
Okay, that bill is passed, and we'll see that familiar bill up on the Senate floor.
Who would you like?
Thank you.
Would you like to? I mean, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Senator Hutchins.
All right, Senator
Thank
Hutchins,
you.
thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, woo-hoo. All right,
Talk to Barlow and Kinsey,
Barlow
though.
and Kinski.
yeah, yeah, absolutely good idea. All right, with that, we'll go to House Bill 10, County Officers Bond Amounts and Surety Requirement. And I think we'll probably hear from our good Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. Welcome. You probably wonder why this bill is here. You guys were having so much fun. I think you maybe have overloaded our joint judiciary, or our Senate Judiciary Chairman. So anyway, welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Committee. So House Bill 10 is a joint interim bill that came out of Joint Judiciary over the summer. It deals with a unfortunate circumstance that arose a couple years ago in one of our counties where there was an embezzlement of some funds, and the revelation that the bond amounts that were required by statute were insufficient, and launched a broader discussion of what those bond amounts ought to be. And that's the genesis of this bill. There are people in the room probably who can offer much more detail than I, but I'm happy to walk you through the bill. What it lays out is each of the different county offices have bonds, and in the engrossed version, you will see that the House made some changes to reflect that certain county officers have much more access to cash than others. The county surveyor, for example, not someone we need to have $100,000 bond on. And same thing with the commissioners. They don't handle cash. The others, we set a bond at $100,000 for each of those offices. And we also removed some language about having 2 sureties, which was a principle probably from statehood. It dated way back, and we heard testimony that it was difficult to get a second surety and really didn't serve much purpose. So we changed that language in the statutes to reflect more modern practice. And as I said, we make differentiation between the county commissioners and the county surveyor and the other offices that have much more cash handling roles within our county governments. And that's the bill.
Questions for Representative, the chairman, Washit? Yes, Senator Baldwin.
Just a quick one, because I'm naive in legal things. What is a surety?
A surety is basically a guarantee of compliance, and they would get basically a second bond issued by a second insurer, and in case one wasn't adequate, I guess, but we don't do it that way anymore.
Follow-up? No? I was going to ask that same question, so I'm glad that you got it out there. I was going to look it up and just didn't have a chance, so. Any other questions? I just had one. I'm glad that you explained the difference in the amounts, because that's the first thing I thought of, is why are some having to have 100,000 and others 10? Is that generally the amount? And I don't know if you've looked in other states or, other places where they have these bonds. Is that generally the $100,000 the typical for many other states, or do you know that?
Madam Chair, it's not atypical, but it oftentimes will be set by the county, and that's the minimum. And so some counties will have higher and some will have lower, but not lower than the statutory minimum.
Okay. And just one other last question. I assume that you've talked to your county folks, and are they comfortable with those amounts?
Madam Chair, they can speak for themselves this morning, but I believe they are. There is an increased cost. Obviously, when you buy a higher dollar level bond, it's going to cost more. And the counties recognize that, and they told us that they were the ones who encouraged us to set different bond levels for the different offices.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate you being here. Anyone else in the room that would like to testify? I have a feeling there's at least one. Welcome. Introduce yourself, even though we all know you.
Because he gets a smaller one.
Good
Yes.
morning, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. I'm Jeremiah Riemann here on behalf of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. I'll try and fill in some additional details. We do support the bill as it stands, and maybe I can just add, I pulled up the legal definition of a surety for you. A surety is a person who guarantees to be responsible for another's debt or obligation, such as a bonding company that posts a bond for a building contractor. Unlike a guarantor, who is liable to creditors only if the debtor fails to perform, a surety is directly liable for the debt. Madam Chairwoman, I'll just quickly provide some context of where things stand right now. You can see it in the bill, but maybe I can provide it and then talk about where things stand at the county level right now. So commissioners are required to have a $1,000 bond. Clerks are required to have a $4,000 bond with two sureties, and there's been a good question about why two sureties. I think that the good judiciary chairman mentioned one of those. I think what we found is that part of the answer to that question is that all of these bond amounts were generally set at statehood. And at that time, you had companies that might have gone default and needed to have a second surety in order to make sure that if something did happen, there was a responsible party. So the clerk at 4,000, two sureties. Clerk of court is 10,000 and two sureties. The sheriff is 4,000. The treasurer is set by the commissioners with two sureties. The assessor is 5,000, and the coroner is 1,000. Now, those are minimums, as was referenced, and I'll just indicate what our research showed relative to those. So for the commissioners, we found that they ranged from $1,000 to $10,000. The clerks were 4,000 to 50,000. The clerks of court were 10,000 to 100,000. The sheriff, 4,000 to 20,000. The treasurer, 10,000 to 5 million in one instance. assessors 5,000 to 10,000, and coroner 1,000 to 10,000. Now, one of the questions we tried to answer relative to this is, was it important to have two sureties? And you heard from the chairman that counties were really having a struggle in some instances to find a second surety company because you've already got the surety in place. So that was a problem that existed there, and having one surety in modern times seems to be appropriate. So the bill does make that change. We also wanted to know what would be the cost of this, and we didn't do a broad scan of all the counties and ask them to call their bond companies, but we asked a couple of them to do that. And generally, we found that the move from $1,000 to $10,000 was about the same cost to make that. It is a jump to go from 10,000 to 100,000. And so then the calculus was what is appropriate. We all agree that it should be 100,000 for most of these positions, but as was indicated, there are two positions, the surveyors and the commissioners, who generally don't touch cash at all. And so it made sense to have a lower threshold there. We'll also note that there are 5 commissioners in the rest of these positions. 3 to 5 commissioners, and the rest of these have one person filling those. So it is a cost for each one of those individuals that fill those commissioner seats. With that, Madam Chairwoman, I'd stand for any questions, but we are supportive of the bill and ask that you continue to move it forward.
Thank you. Questions? Senator Baldwin.
Just out of curiosity, I know you spoke of the one embezzlement case. Are you aware of any other cases where we were short because of the lower bonds?
Madam Chairwoman, Senator Baldwin, I'm not aware of another instance where the bond amount was insufficient for covering the issue at hand. This one is really unique in that, one, the bond amount was rather low, but two, it ultimately was never paid out because there's a discrepancy amongst the parties of who really was responsible. Was it the state or was it the local government? And in fact, that county had supplemental insurance to back up its bond, and that was never paid out as a result of that discrepancy. So it really put that county in a lurch, and so all the more reason for us to come and try and figure this out a bit more.
Follow up?
And
go
the
ahead.
follow-up would be, we're talking about counties. Was there any discussion about city, about local municipalities in the discussions?
Mr. Riemann?
Madam Chairwoman, I don't remember the municipal part of this coming into the conversation, and obviously my interest was the county, so.
Any other questions? I just had one. I wondered about bonding companies. How many do we have those in the state, and whereabouts are they? How difficult is it to get one of these?
Madam Chairwoman, I don't know that I have that answer. As I mentioned, we did ask a couple of counties to make that outreach relative to bond amounts. Carbon County was one of those counties that assisted us in that effort. They were the first one to bring up the two surety issue because they only have one company locally that can do this, and couldn't find another company to issue that. And then the company that was issuing it didn't want to have a second surety. So they're few and far between in some communities, is what my sense is.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. Anybody else that would like to testify on House Bill 10? Do we have anybody online? No? Everyone is quiet today, so thank you so much. Well, we'll go ahead then and close testimony on House Bill 10. What's your pleasure, committee?
Move the bill.
Okay, it's been moved by Senator Baldwin, seconded by Senator Jones. Let's go ahead then and talk about the bill. And is there anything else that you can see that we need to fix? Page 1, page 2. I think the House has done a good job of trying to catch things that needed to be caught. Having a hard time today with my English. Page 3, page 4. Okay. Well, With that, I guess the question's been called. We'll go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Baldwin.
Aye.
Senator Ellis.
She left a proxy, a pass, do pass.
Senator Guru has also voted aye. Senator Jones. Aye. And Chairman Schuler.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, ma'am.
Okay, bill is passed. Don't know who else would like to carry this one. Any volunteers?
I imagine the chairman of judiciary will probably carry it.
Probably so. Yeah, we'll turn him loose.
Senator Landon.
Yeah, Senator Landon.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Last bill. We're whipping through these. I guess maybe we could have done 4 today at the rate we're going, but we like simple bills, so. House Bill 12, this is presumptive child support amounts, updated tables. This was also sponsored by our Joint Judiciary Interim Committee. You guys did a lot of work. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Chairman.
Joint Judiciary was very busy over the summer, and we cranked out quite a few pieces of legislation, and House Bill 12 is one of those. What this does is when you look at child support law in the green books, you'll see that there's a great deal of text about the purpose and the requirements and the penalties for not payment and those sorts of things. But then you'll see there's charts of numbers. And what those charts of numbers are the presumptive levels that begin the discussion when a court is trying to determine how much child support ought to be paid. These numbers are supposed to be updated periodically. There were attempts in the past, and those bills had failed. So the tables have not been updated very recently, and Joint Judiciary decided time was right. And so that's the focus here. The agency responsible for this hires a consultant to put together the numbers, and the numbers vary depending upon the number of children in the family unit that's being covered. And I just want to emphasize that what these numbers represent is a starting point, not a floor and not a ceiling. It's a starting point for discussion for the court. The court can then take into account all the variable circumstances in each family situation. But it gives them a starting point that lends itself to some uniformity in the setting of child support payments. Obviously, even though the tables were out of date, our judges made the best calls they could, starting with the old tables and thinking about modern income levels and more demands on family units and so forth. And so they made do, but it was deemed appropriate that we comply with our own statute and get these tables updated. So I don't have a lot of information about the justifications and the rationales for each of these dollar levels, just that the structure and the purpose of this update is to create more realistic numbers for the beginning of those discussions by the court. The question that came up in the House was, does this create some automatic shift in child support? And the answer to that is no. That each person already has their child support payment set by the court, and unless there was a rehearing and a reconsideration, there would be no automatic increase or decrease in anybody's child support payments. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for questions.
Questions for Chairman? I think you answered one of the questions that I had, was what would happen with those that are presently paying child support? What would happen with them? That was one of the big questions that I had, so I appreciate that information. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Senator Baldwin.
Just a quick question. Just looking through these, and I apologize that I'm just looking through the amounts now. I realized earlier that the amounts had changed, the minimums from 846 to 1,000, et cetera, et cetera. What I didn't realize is the percentage of income allocated per child had also gone up. And it looks like it's the same all the way across all of them. Any insight on that? Or was that just to go along with the increase of the amount?
Mr. Chairman?
Madam Chair, Senator Baldwin, I don't have that data. It was based again by the consultant's recommendation to the department. And they brought these to us. We didn't get into the weeds of trying to parse out the particulars of the numbers.
Any follow-up? No? Okay, thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Thanks so much. Anybody else in the room that would like to testify? I think we have at least one person here that might have some more information on this bill. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Christy Gordy, Senior Administrator of the Department of Family Services, Economic Security Division, which houses child support. So the Chairman of Judiciary did a great job providing some background, but if you'd like, I can provide a little bit more detail, answer a few of the questions that you've asked. So as he mentioned, we are required by state statute, but also by federal law to have our guidelines reviewed every 4 years. We do that by enlisting, we typically use an economist, so Center for Policy and Research. The economist is Dr. Jane Venor, who is here virtually to potentially answer any of those very specific economic questions that you might have. They do the review, they look at our tables, but they also look at economic data, do analysis, and specifically to the tables, they have not been updated in 10 years. So the current tables are based on 2012 pricing. And so that is why, that, like the chairman said, there has been attempts in the past to update the tables. However, for whatever reason, a policy decision was made not to update those. So as the review was done in 2021, again, our economist came to us recommending updates to the tables because they are so out of date. So she can get into the pricing, but essentially there's a new study out, so there's updated pricing tables. And to your question, Senator Baldwin, there is an increase in pricing and in income in the tables. The pricing increase based on the study is just about 19%. But what you will see in the proposed updates is that's about an average of 12% when you look at the actual orders. So what that does mean, as the chairman alluded to, and to your question, Chairwoman, in statute right now, the trigger for modification of child support is a 20% change. Therefore, there is no automatic, because most of these will be 12%. There may be a very few at the very, very high end when we're looking at incomes of $15,000 or more. They may be impacted and need a modification, but our very low income or average income should not need a modification. There is a committee, just for a little bit of background. This is not something child support, the Department of Family Services does alone. There's a committee that reviews the report that comes from the economist. Included on that is obviously the child support staff. We have policy staff as well as our attorneys. We have the private bar who also join, who represent parents. We have the law school. One of the professors at the law school joins. The Access for Justice, we have people join from that, as well as the first time this year we actually had a parent on as a partaker in the committee. A parent who actually pays child support participated in the committee. So the committee reviews the report that comes and came from Dr. Jane Venor. That committee then makes a determination on whether it seems that it should make an ask to the legislature for any updates. And as you saw, that happened over the interim, and you have the bill in front of you. So we're just here looking at a policy decision, obviously, for the legislature to make on whether we update the tables. But we do think the tables are in need of updated. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions? Oh, go ahead, Senator Baldwin.
No, I didn't have one. I just turned it
Oh,
off.
you just turned it off. Oh, okay. I do have a question, but I don't know if your economist would want to answer this, or you. What are some of those factors they look at? I assume if inflation is one of them. What are some other factors they look at when they make these tables?
Madam Chairwoman, yes, there's plenty, but I would defer, if you're okay with that, to Dr. Jane Venor to give you the insight on that.
Absolutely. And your committee, again, how many are on that committee, just out of curiosity? I was
Madam-
trying to write them all down.
Yeah, Madam Chairwoman, we had total of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I believe there was a total of 9. We also had a clerk of district court, so that might have made 10. There are a few child support attorneys, not just one. We have a couple that sit, so adds up.
And does that committee, do you ever look at what's going on in other states, just to kind of see if your child support, if it's in the ballpark? a chance?
Madam Chairwoman, that is typically part of the report that we receive from the economist, is there is comparison to what is happening in other states and what studies they look at and the different things going on within their guidelines and their tables.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you, Ms. Gordy. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
We'll go ahead and, okay. Put that person in. I didn't catch the name, but I'm sure they'll introduce themselves, so. Welcome. You wouldn't mind introducing yourself? We'd love to hear from you.
I'm Dr. Jane Fenora. I'm an economist with Center for Policy Research. We're a nonprofit organization based in Denver, and we provide technical assistance and evaluation services to federal, state, government agencies, courts on children's issues. Our mission is to have research that helps them make better policies for families. So we've worked with Wyoming for the last, since 2007, since I've been working with that organization. And I've been the economist that has assisted Wyoming with its review. Federal regulation requires states to consider economic data on the cost of raising children when they review their guidelines every 4 years, which is also a federal requirement. And just to cut to the chase, you asked where the data come from. And the existing Wyoming child support schedule is based on consumer expenditure data collected in 2004 through 2009. It's part of the Bureau of Labor Statistics consumer expenditure survey. It surveys about 6,000 households every quarter on hundreds of items. It's what's used to calibrate the CPI that we use for inflation. So Christy was correct in saying that there's a new study out there, that the old one was based on 2004, 2009 data. And now we have expenditures data from 2013 to 2019. And that is a national study. There is a state-specific study. It's just very demanding to conduct such a study, but we do calibrate it. We check it against Wyoming housing prices. I think I might get the name of this organization wrong, but you have a Department of Information and Administration. I think it is. They do a lot of good checks on some of the regional data, housing and pricing on transportation. We use that to check it. We check it against other states, North Dakota, Montana, Nebraska, particularly the ones that border Wyoming. And then, we also consider inflation, changes in income, and particularly Wyoming. And I think I'm going to stop there, Madam Chair, and let you ask any questions of me.
Any questions? I don't think so. I think you answered definitely all the questions I had. I appreciate that. So with that, I think we'll turn you loose. Thank you so much for filling in the blanks. Anything else from anyone in the community? Well, we still have a couple people. I'm sure they're dying to get up here and testify, right? No other testimony from the public? Okay, we'll go ahead and close testimony. Let's take a look at the bill. Did a good job of answering questions. Appreciate knowing that they took a look at the border states around us. I think that's always important. And I hadn't thought about housing costs, but I'm sure that had to enter into that. So anything at all in terms of amendments or? No?
Looks like it's well researched.
Okay. What's your pleasure? Move the bill by Senator Baldwin, second by Senator Jones. Well, with that, since we don't have any changes, we'll go ahead and take roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 12, Senator Baldwin.
Aye.
Senator Ellis.
She left to do pass.
Senator Guru is an aye. Senator Jones. Aye. And Chairman Schuler.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes.
Okay. Thank you so much. That bill will pass, and I guess we'll check and see if Senator Landon who he wants to do that, but take that. He may want to, or he may parse it out to somebody on the Judiciary Committee that actually sat through this. It's so difficult with all of us none of us served on that committee, so we're kind of flying blind on this, but anyway, thanks for coming.